Disrupted recently reached a major milestone, 5 years on the air. As we reflect on those past 5 years, you'll hear a conversation that speaks to the heart of what this show is all about. Disrupted was never simply about reacting to the news cycle. It's always been about creating room for thoughtful engagement even when the ground feels unstable. It's about refusing the idea that disruption only produces loss. Instead, here at Disrupted, we ask what disruption reveals, what it demands of us, and what it can make possible if we are willing to stay present and accountable. From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're listening back to a live panel discussion in New Haven, celebrating 5 years of Disrupted. The theme of our panel was finding joy and purpose in turbulent times. Erik Clemons is CEO and president of ConCorp and ConCat. ConCat offers job training and youth programs, while ConCorp is dedicated to economic development in New Haven. Ryan Parker is an educator, poet, and activist. He is a certified mama's boy and chocolate chip cookie lover. He works as an educational consultant and has spent more than 2 decades teaching. Ryan was the Poet Laureate of Manchester from 2019 to 2023. Here's our conversation. We are meeting at a time that, yes, is defined by turbulence, but for so many of us, that turbulence is not new. For so many of us, that constant feeling of having to look over our shoulders and wondering when the other shoe may drop does not feel new. And yet, for even more of us, we understand that joy is not a naive feeling. Joy is an affirmation of our humanity. And so tonight, I want us to gather with open hearts, with open minds, with open ears. And I want us to think about how we assert our power together. Because if we give up our power, we will have no one to blame but ourselves. Erik, a lot of people know you because of your work here in New Haven, focusing on economic development, job opportunities for people that others have said are unemployable. You have said no, you are deserving of that dignity and created it. But people may not be familiar with your experiences growing up in Norwalk and how those experiences have brought you to where you are today. Share with our audience a little bit about that background and how it shapes the path that you're on now.
First, I have to acknowledge the fact that I am sitting here with you on your 5th anniversary. Yeah. And I'm just so honored to be invited into your calling and into your dream and to be able to sit here and give voice to the things that I care about. And quite frankly, you know, I'm not a podcast person at all. And I was telling a dear friend of mine this yesterday that I think people talk too much. And I believe that talking has become the proxy for leadership. So when I listen to you and your sense of purpose, determination, and kind of extracting story from people in a way that everyone learns and everyone is enriched because of the platform you created, I'm just so absolutely, incredibly impressed with you, sister. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Yeah. And so very quickly, I grew up in Norwalk, Connecticut, maybe half hour south of here. I grew up and was raised by the projects and was raised at that time. You know, when you lived in the projects, there was always a community center that was adjoined to the housing. And so a community center, the Carver Community Center, raised me. And I was raised by folks who went to HBCUs. I was raised by people who understood Afrocentrism. And every time we were in the Carver, especially summer camp, we were grouped by gender and by age, and every age and gender had a African tribe name. And so I was always a Kikuyu. And there were always Igbos, and there were Bantus, and there were Zulus. That's how I grew up. And even though we were incredibly poor, we were even more proud than we were poor. And so I never thought, even in terms of the odds that were against me, I didn't think critically about them. I knew there were barriers, and I knew there was something very wrong because, this was the time when we were bused. This was immediate post-civil rights. And so we were bused from our urban neighborhood to the suburbs. That's when I knew something was very wrong. Maybe not wrong, it was different. I thought wrong. And so I've always had this sense of community. I've always had this determination to make things right. I've always had this sense of hope. And I believe that, as we are talking about joy, I've always had joy because I believe joy is the product of hope in action. And I'm a reader. Anyone who knows me, I read. I read actually too much. But I realized that I found myself in books. And my dreams were realized in books. And so a lot of the work that I do were based on what I read. And what I mean by that is I realized that anything is possible. Anything and everything is possible. Any level of success that I experience has come from a place of dreams. Never, ever, not in my wildest dream that I ever think I would not make it. And I don't even know what making it is. I know what making it is for me. I don't know what that is for you. But I never thought I couldn't I didn't know what I would do. I didn't know what I would be. But I knew I wouldn't be what I was. And so I think growing up the way I did, post-civil rights, I grew up with, Black Power. You saw it on everyone's jacket, red, black, and green. You saw Black Panthers on people's, Black Panthers insignia on people's garments. So I grew up in that. Yeah, I'll leave that because I'm going to get to real black now. Go ahead.
I feel a sermon coming. Mm-hmm. Ryan, what is it that calls you into education, not as a vocation, but as a passion to do that work of affirmation for young people?
I have to name in the space that first and foremost, I give thanks to the most beautiful, most brilliant Black ancestors who paved the path so that I may arrive and be here in this moment. And I understand that it's my responsibility to continue to pave the path for those that I will one day be an ancestor to. And this is all connective. This is all connective to the question. I give thanks to the indigenous folks responsible for these grounds that we are sitting upon right now as we have this very important conversation, this necessary conversation. And I give thanks to the labor and to the hidden labor. And what I mean by that is those that made sure the space was clean and there was soap in the soap dispensers, but those that are also present with us holding a different kind of labor than I may be holding. Anybody that's dealing with loss, anybody that might be sitting with illness or anxiety, I enter with gratitude that you may be here with your ears, eyes, and minds open to receive whatever it is that we may give through this conversation. And to come back to, what shaped me and what instilled a level of passion when we talk about education, it is the generations before me. It is this offering and this experience and its bitterness around my own experience as a Black boy student in classrooms that tried to murder my spirit. It's me walking into Miss Jennings' classroom in high school and looking on the wall and seeing a banner that says silence is golden. It's this white woman in the front of the classroom with these cold, stiff rows that is handing out dittos and lecturing from the front of the classroom And it's me being sent to that space repetitively when I was disrupting, pun intended. So there was a bitterness that grew in me then in my high school body. Now, I wasn't like, I'm going to grow up and be a revolutionary educator at that time. I was going to be a rapper. I was going to play ball. I was going to do like all those things, right? But there is a seed planted there in the midst of an agitation that is very much lived in that moment that I did carry even when I went into high school. And in that moment, even then, I remember an internal narrative in my mind being like, yo, if this was my classroom, this place would be popping. Like, this is so uncomfortable for me. If I ever get into a classroom, forget this golden silence, I'm about to bring golden noise into it.
It's quite a powerful origin story. Shout out to Miss Jennings, or not.
Good energy. I send it.
Many of us are struggling right now. We feel overwhelmed. Maybe, is it just me? Because I don't see any head nods, right? We feel overwhelmed and besieged on all sides. And that isn't just what's happening in Minneapolis. It isn't just what's happening in Washington, D.C. For many of us, it's what's happening in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and the frustration that we sometimes feel of, well, why does it take a big national event to make people stop and care about the people right beside them? When we started this show in 2020, it was in the midst of COVID and all that uncertainty and the uprisings following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many others. And we kept coming back to this idea of disruption and what it brought up for us personally to then experience it as a collective. Erik, I want to start with you. You know, when you think about disruptions and turbulent times, what does that bring for you to then connect you to the purpose that you now pursue?
Yeah, I've always felt, and I think you alluded to it in your opening, I've always felt that I was in turbulent times. I never felt safe in this country, ever. And so, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about, I think the first show I did with you during the pandemic. I had just lost my wife due to COVID. And I was just absolutely shattered. Like, my life was just shattered. And I remember you reaching out to me and asked me to come on. And I said yes. God knows I didn't want to. And I said yes because it was you. And it was an invitation from you. And I trusted you with how I was in that moment. And I believe that moment really solidified and concretized for me what my purpose is. You know, I've done a lot of things, Kalila. I've been so incredibly blessed, and I have become somebody. But who I've become is not who I want to be. And so I took that opportunity, that invitation from you, as you gave me a microphone to give voice to how I felt in that moment, as a way to really think about what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here. And I said the other day in this incredible group of people, Redwood Fellows, that I believe that every human being now, because of the times we are in, should avail themselves to be a vessel of sanctuary for other human beings. That to open myself up in a way that gives sanctuary to the trouble that people are experiencing is really important to me. And I do that in the vein of economic development, workforce development, all these things I've been able to do. But it is that thing. It is that offering of myself and all that has become of me to give away to people. Because I believe that as much as I give away, and this is true, this is like a rule for me, as much as I give away, I get so much more back. And I think, to me, given the turbulent times, that people are now experiencing, and maybe not even experiencing. Maybe you've been experiencing it, now you're acknowledging it. Because I've dealt with Donald Trump all my life, in different forms and in different fashions. And so I think to the extent that each and every one of us, no matter race, class, whatever it may be, offer something to somebody. Offer something to somebody. Because, and I'm going to get really personal here. I was telling Connie Royster and also Elsie Chapman that my mom passed this past Sunday night. And I didn't tell you. Yeah. Because we would have cried and then you would have tried to get me off the show. And I was like, no. And it still is such an amazing moment for me. Because even in her last stages, she was in home hospice. And in her last stages of life, she was still trying to give me something. And far be it for us, as we are healthy, living humans, that we are not trying to give anything to anybody. Even my mom had no idea sometimes of who I was because she had dementia and cancer. But there were moments of lucidity where she tried to give me something as she was leaving. And so I take that and offer that to you, that in these turbulent times, and they will not end, I'm sorry to say. And they will not end because we allow them to exist. And we've allowed them to exist too long, such that it has become commonplace to be in turbulence now.
I'm sending whatever kind of healing energy you need in this moment. Just let me say that.
Coming up, more from educator and poet Ryan Parker and CEO and president of ConCorp and ConCat, Erik Clemons. Ryan will talk about an historical icon who sought joy amid challenges that are difficult to imagine. This is Disrupted. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we focus on finding joy and purpose in turbulent times. The conversation was part of a live event marking Disrupted's 5th anniversary. Erik Clemons is CEO and president of the New Haven-based ConCat and ConCorp. ConCat offers job training and youth programs, while ConCorp is dedicated to economic development in New Haven. Ryan Parker works as an educational consultant and has spent more than 2 decades teaching. He was Poet Laureate of Manchester from 2019 to 2023. Even though Ryan is no longer a classroom teacher, he still works in education. It's important to him to be around young people, whether through visiting classrooms or staying connected to youth groups. Ask Ryan what he's hearing from young people today.
I'm hearing the reality of emotional impact. I'm hearing the weight that they are holding in existing in a space where adults are messing up by the millisecond. So it feels disingenuous for me to even be an adult leader speaking to youth, because why should you trust me? And I see them bucking on each other and breaking into moments of the kind of joy that sustains us in these times where we have no option but to lean into bits of hope and to see futures that might not exist currently, but to dream them until they exist. And one of the major topics that came up in conversation with the youth members I was connecting with is a need to be in community, not behind a glass screen, a desire to want to be in creative spaces. And so they want to heal. And they want to heal together. And they want to put the phone down and be face to face and to hear poems and to hear bars and to be just connecting and reflecting and dreaming something bigger than what currently is.
So I'm going to put you on the spot because I know you can handle it. You just mentioned wanting to hear poems and wanting to hear bars. And since you are a poet, it would only be appropriate that I ask you to share a poem or some bars. Ryan, will you share with us?
I guess I'll chase another dream again. Connected with my team, and now I'm feeling like I'm me again. I got dirty, rinsed off, feeling clean again. Haters keep looking, but I'm focused. I ain't seeing them. I know my worth in this church that I'm preaching in. I'm nothing like Sheryl Sandberg, but I keep on leaning in. I drew a thick line quick between peace and sin. Words made of flame. I spit the heat that keeps seeping in. The rest of y'all are just zombies steady sleeping in. I dream with eyes wide so I could see success creeping in. I saw the soldiers in the field and gave them each a pen. Said to write a poem. Said to hold your breath and write a poem until you breathe again. These mumble rappers need to learn how to speak again. And no, I'm not hating, just teaching. Hope I'm reaching them. My tongue's the drum inside this poem, making it beat again. Semantics be organic. It's that whole food I'm feeding them. My mama said to tell the truth, make them believe again. My people paved the path. One day my baby girl will lead the men. Fist up for my people getting free again. Never stop fighting, even if it means I bleed for them. Summon the dragon to pick me up on its wings again and fly above the world, dropping joy upon the scene again. Woo! I'm trying to recenter my chi again. Locked inside a box until I learn to turn the key again. Opened it up and breathed deep and let the freedom in. Succeeded to proceed to find peace and harmony again. Now I'm feeling like myself again. Back to good habits, mental and physical health again. Loving life, playing cards that I was dealt again. Invested in myself, so now I'm well and I can help my friends. Invested in myself, so now I'm well and I can help my friends. Invested in myself, so now I'm well. Thank you.
I told you could do it. Ryan Parker. Erik, I'm reminded of...
Ask me a question after that.
No, I was going to ask you to drop a poem. You'll know Erik's in divinity school, so a mighty word. But as Ryan was sharing that, I was thinking about this summer. I went over to CONCAT to see Bill Graustein's exhibit, this wonderful exhibit. And while I was there were, I think I saw Opal Harmon in the room, and Opal met with me. And while we were there were groups of middle school and high school students in the building. And they were so excited to be together. And I thought about, here's this space in a neighborhood that people overlook and underestimate. And there are young people who are together, who are experiencing this joy together, but they are surrounded by art. But what struck me in that time with Opal was the art that the young people created themselves. How do you see art, especially the ways that you highlighted in your work, as this connection to purpose, of helping people to dream and to imagine, but to, as Ryan's piece just did, connect all of us in to this shared joy and shared experience? What's the role of art for you?
I love art. And I believe art is the physical manifestation of the stories that are held within people, especially children. And so, when we first started CONCAT, I wanted the young people to study the Harlem Renaissance because I wanted them to understand community building of these Black people off the heels of slavery who came to Harlem and created their own community, mostly through the arts and through rhetoric. And so as they studied that time period of Black people building community, trying to bring themselves into a white America that didn't think they were going to live, I wanted them to feel that and really create art based on that feeling. And then after 5 or 6 years, the staff got a little tired of the Harlem Renaissance. I didn't. And we had the students study Motown, the migration of Black people to Detroit, where they built their own community through the arts. And we wanted the kids to express themselves in the form of what was happening in the 60s with Motown and these young people who were given gifts by God to be able to sing. They didn't have singing lessons. They just opened their mouths, mostly in church. And then we came to the 50-year celebration of hip hop. And we wanted the kids to understand and make music, understand the artwork in hip hop. And so these are the things that we did to allow for the stories that are held within young people. And it was nothing more powerful than for a young person to create something and we put it in a gallery. And so art to me is everything because it tells a story without being vocal. And so much so that, I got an award and it was a monetary award, and I created an art gallery in our other building in the lab called Orchid Gallery because I felt like Black and brown artists, especially local, didn't have place or space to show what they are able to do. And they were always being discounted. If in fact they're not at MoMA and all these other places, then they didn't matter. But they did matter. They just needed a place. And so art, again, it means the world. Because I believe that when you don't give children outlets, like the brother here is saying, that the dreams and hopes that they have in them, that they carry with them, if they don't are allowed to be expressed, then they become rage. And art is a way for that not to happen.
Ryan, I think art can also be a way for us to confront things that are uncomfortable, to confront things or to deal with things that we may not have a language for, but there is an experience that brings us together. I want you to share with the audience Project Happyvism. Did I get it right?
Yes, you have. You got it.
Share with us the vision for that project and what it means for you to be leading that project.
Thank you for that. Project Happyvism. You want to think about the combination of the words happy and activism. And so it comes from a space of choosing joy. And I would like to name, shout out to Dr. Justice Lopez, I'd like to name my co-leader in the development of this, because this is how it happened. We went to the Hip Hop Ed Conference out in New York. We always play instrumentals when we're driving. So we come back from New York, we're driving back to Connecticut, and I put this instrumental on that I had been listening to for some time now, and Lopez was listening to it for the first time. And he caught it, and we were freestyling, and he was just like, yo, this is making me feel joyful right now. I'm feeling kind of happy. And I was like, I'm feeling so happy. I'm feeling so happy. Yo, sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm mad, but now I'm feeling so happy. We're like, yo. And then we were just like, okay, let's pause on just what we did. This is healing, right? Freestyling in the car over this beat as we're driving back home from this dope conference. And we're centering joy right now. And what does that mean? Let's give each other assignments. We're both educators, so we gave each other homework. And we was like, okay, the homework is going to go home and we're going to write about joy. And we're going to come back and then we're going to write, you're going to write your stanzas, your bars. Hip hop's poetry to me. It's one of the same. I'm going to write mine. And I got mine out quick because I was on it. I was like, yeah, the world tries to fill me with sadness and madness. I tell you, I know it's the truth. I choose to be happy. I won't let them trap me. I tell you, my joy is the proof. My happy rebellion for people who focus on steadily taking me down. My happiness solid from bottom to the top, so you know there's no breaking me down. Woo! And I'm rocking some new J's, clean jeans with a new fade. You should just call me Yocean, bro. I'm keeping it wavy all day. People can hate on me all day. I promise my joy, it won't fade. People can hate on me all day. I promise my joy, it won't fade. Yo, I'm feeling so happy. I'm feeling so happy. Sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm mad, but now I'm feeling so happy. And there, Happyvism was born, Project Happyvism, this concept around what it is to embrace our joy, and specifically Black and brown boy joy, because this is mixed into the histories that you are offering This is the Black Panthers. This is the Black excellence narratives that we don't have access to readily because they tell us the surface level stories. They say Harriet Tubman, Underground Railroad. And you talk to a youth member, you're like, what you know about Harriet Tubman? They're like, Underground Railroad, and are envisioning an actual railroad. I was like, oh, so you lived minimally in that education. So it just feels like slight. But there's joy in that. But what you have to do is you have to get to the fine details. You have to tell the Black excellence narrative. You have to say, Harriet went from Maryland to Philadelphia. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times. You got to go up in the numbers. 13 times. And then went back, hiked in the woods at night. No off for the mosquitoes. No GPS. Gray wolf, black bear, racist white man on your tail. She mastered the art of walking through the woods in silence for multiple miles, over 2,000 if you count the back and forths. This is exceptional. This is the beauty and the brilliance and the joy that is twisted into Black existence in the stories that we don't get enough of. You have to tell the youth the story in this way. You have to name to them that she used the stars and the blackness of the sky as her map to get to where she needed to get to and went back. There was no penicillin. If she caught a scrape, you done. Right? She learned how to throw the scent off of her trail by walking in the water. We talk about dreams. We talk about freedom dreams. Harriet Tubman is the icon for me. To be able to freedom dream in the midst of the most tumultuous situation and to still seek joy. Not only that, but to bring the freedom dream to fruition, to actualize it for yourself and for your community. That's joy.
Coming up, more from our live conversation with educator and poet Ryan Parker and the CEO and president of ConCat and ConCorp, Erik Clemons. They'll talk about what they think people should do amid the turbulence that we are experiencing in the world today. This is Disrupted. Stay with us. Welcome back to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're listening to a live panel about finding joy and purpose in turbulent times. The panel was recorded in New Haven in celebration of 5 years of Disrupted. Erik Clemons is CEO and president of the New Haven-based ConCat and ConCorp. ConCat offers job training and youth programs, while ConCorp is dedicated to economic development in New Haven. He's currently working on a $200 million project in the Dixwell neighborhood of New Haven. The new project is designed to meet the needs of the community, and it includes an early childhood center, housing units, a grocery store, a food hall, a performing arts center, and greenhouses. Ryan Parker works as an educational consultant and has spent more than 2 decades teaching. He was Poet Laureate of Manchester from 2019 to 2023. Before the break, Ryan spoke of the need to tell Harriet Tubman's story in its fullness. It made me think about New Haven's own Justice Constance Baker Motley. Judge Motley was a civil rights icon who went on to be the first Black woman to serve as a federal judge in the U.S. Despite all of Justice Motley's accomplishments and her importance, there are still many students right here in Connecticut who don't know her story and her legacy. I asked Erik what disruptors he is returning to as he thinks about joy and purpose in the next phase of his life.
First, you have to count yourself in that number of absolutely incredible public intellectuals who speak from a place of heart and spirit and are incredibly proficient and profound in mind. And so as much as we talk about Constance Baker Motley, as we should, always, and as much as we remember Harriet Tubman, that you are one of those too. You're in that lineage, right? Yeah, absolutely. I think there are two people who I call upon. One is James Baldwin. Baldwin wrote and spoke truth in a way that allowed for Black folks who weren't as gifted as him to understand and know what is happening to them right now. Mm-hmm. That there is a foot upon your neck, and this is why. Mm-hmm. Baldwin's language were like the spirituals to me. And then there's a 87-year-old woman who, we're in the midst of this huge development project on Dixwell Avenue. It's a $200 million project, and it is really the enfleshment of the idea, the enfleshment of a dream. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Not because of the execution of it. It's because of the spirit of it and the emotions behind it. And it was probably one of the most misunderstood things that I've ever done in my life, misunderstood by an entire community of people who look like me, who, for the most part, could not see themselves, and it is not their fault, because part of it is my fault. They could not see themselves in the vision that we were presenting. So in the midst of all of that, there's an 87-year-old woman named Miss Ella Smith who took me by the hand one evening in a meeting because I was failing miserably in presenting what we were going to do and articulating in a way that was clear. And I think I shared with you, she brought me by the hand and said, Mr. Clemons, we love you. As soon as you hear that from an old person,
bless your heart.
But we don't know you. And the mistake I was making was I was presenting what we were doing as opposed to presenting myself. And since that time, every Sunday, without fail, Miss Ella sends me a word of encouragement through text. 87 years old. Even if it's just, I love you, keep going, or this building is incredible, or it's a heart. She sent me a birthday card for my 60th birthday a couple weeks ago. Mailed it and wrote it out. Like wrote on the card, not just love, people just put their name at the bottom. And so I draw a lot from her because there are a lot of times when I don't think people believe it, when I just absolutely need encouragement. I don't even ask for love no more. I'll take encouragement.
There may be people who are inspired by the two of you, your sense of joy, your sense of purpose, the unapologetic sense of joy, and be thinking for themselves, but what does that mean for me? How can I show up? How can I claim joy and purpose even when things seem so challenging? Ryan, what do you say to people who are wrestling with that, of claiming joy and purpose even in turbulent times?
I was worried to come into the space and talk about joy. Just to keep it 100, to be transparent, because I know that there's a bit of privilege twisted into being able to do it. That I'm not in a position right now in the moment where I am dodging bullets, that I have access to the food that I need and water and health. And so I struggled with it a bit because I have to name that it is with a bit of power and privilege that I'm able to sit here comfortably and talk about joy. And so for those that are trying to find their way into that, I think a message that I can give that's most immediate and readily available right now is my lived experience around centering joy in the midst of the turmoil doesn't deny the existence of the turmoil. It's not a facade or a way to mask real pain. There's real pain. It even was in that little cute little thing, like sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm mad, but right now I'm feeling so. It's a balance of both. So I guess if I'm advising or if I'm giving a tip to that particular question, a good place for me that feels good to start is acknowledging what it is that you're really sitting with that isn't so joy-filled, while also not forgetting that joy lives there too. And that might even be in the smallest of moments. It might be a certain sip of tea if you have access to that. It might be just seeing the way the light is just catching the branches right now. Both exist. Both exist at the same exact time. I keep coming back to a mantra that centers me, which is, the world is so ugly and so beautiful at the same exact time.
Our evening ended with a Q&A with the audience. The first question was about the role of the public sector and private sector in art.
My experience has been very much rooted in Manchester, spaces like Workspace, organizing art for Black History Month, organizing with youth. I coached Paper Voices, who hosted their own open mic Fridays in the community center, where they brought artists out and shared their poems, their dance, their singing. That's the experience that I've had around the non-private, more public-facing art. What was the cost of that project? What was it like? $200 million. I have a $60,000 project. And that, I really do. And that project is on a little fleck in the Atlantic Ocean called Sal Miguel. And I wanted to take care of my mom in this season of her retirement. And we teamed together, myself, and my wife. And my mom always said, when I retire, I think I want to be on an island somewhere. And so we're living into that dream, but the bigger dream is building a healing space, a space where we can heal the healers, especially those with marginalized identities. This is Project Villa Pilar, sponsored by Parker Pedagogy. It is a real thing. My freedom dream to step into and actualize that dream is to engage with communities and to wrap them in public art.
One of the reasons why I opened that gallery, one was to show Black and brown artists who are local, who aren't really shown. Two, is for them to make money. And I think a lot of times, artists especially don't think about the economic part of their creations. As much as I am all about community and all about hope and justice, I'm also a capitalist. And I think a lot of times people think Black people took a vow of poverty because we for whatever reason, we have, not we, but most often Black communities that have been pervasively impoverished, people think they're supposed to be poor. And so I'm always trying to find ways to create levers by which there's economic infrastructure and capital formation in Black communities, whether it be through art, workforce development, or whatever. Yes, public art is important. And at the same time, I think artists should make money.
Yes.
Straight up.
Yes. Yes.
Connie Royster in the front, please.
Yes, Connie Royster. I am a New Havener who lives in Bethany. My question is, what's our call to action?
I'm in Yale Divinity School, and I've always read my Bible, and and always tried to understand it. And there's really quickly a very small part called the Book of Acts, where Luke wrote the Book of Acts, but 2/3 of it is about Paul, because Luke is following Paul wherever he goes. And Paul is always in jail and getting beat almost near death all the time. And when I read, I realized that Luke, although he's always with Paul, he's never in jail. Because I believe that Luke, and Paul being a warrior, if there's a warrior, there always has to be a witness. Someone who takes account of what is happening so the world will know it and not forget it. And so our call to action is, and I think part of the issue in New Haven especially, is the fact that there are a lot of witnesses pretending to be warriors. And so the call to action is to know your role and be fine with it. Do a thing and do it proper. That's the call to action for me. Yeah.
Ryan, what's the call to action from your perspective?
Enough said. I guess what I would add to it is pay attention to your youth. Make space to listen, to not just hear them, but to really listen. Create. Ancestors of mine who were enslaved in the midst of their enslavement still had weddings, still had birthday celebrations, created coded song for their escape, wove seeds into their hair for the future crops they knew they would plant. The amount of beautiful brilliance and genius in this is a blueprint. It's a blueprint for us to follow. Palestinians planted gardens even in the midst of bombardment. It's a blueprint for us to follow. So dig deep into the maps that are already here for us to read.
From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. Thank you so much for listening. Ryan Parker works as an educational consultant and has spent more than 2 decades teaching. He was Poet Laureate of Manchester from 2019 to 2023. Ryan's project, Happyvism, is both a song and a children's book. He's also working on an online children's show called Mr. Parker, the Hip Hop Teacher. There are episodes set to release at the end of February. Erik Clemons is CEO and president of the New Haven-based ConCat and ConCorp. ConCat offers job training and youth programs, while ConCorp is dedicated to economic development in New Haven. Our conversation was recorded live at the Gateway campus of Connecticut State Community College in New Haven, celebrating 5 years of Disrupted. Disrupted is produced by Kevin Chang Barnum, Robin Doyon-Aiken, Erica McIntosh, and Meg Fitzgerald. You can listen to more than 250 episodes of Disrupted in our archive. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. And you can listen for new episodes every Friday at 9 a.m. From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. Thank you for 5 incredible years. Here's to the next 5.